Welcome to our Hong Kong Brief program. Today, we have a lineup of exciting news stories to share with you. First up, online retail giant Shein is considering a Hong Kong IPO after abandoning plans for a New York listing. This move comes amid increasing scrutiny in the UK and concerns over its Chinese roots. A Hong Kong listing would mean a lower valuation and fewer peers for comparison, but it might still be the company's best bet. Stay tuned to see how this unfolds. Next, private equity firm Blackstone is finalizing a deal to sell Japanese supplement maker Alinamin Pharmaceutical to MBK Partners for a whopping $2.2 billion. MBK aims to boost Alinamin's value by leveraging its experience in consumer goods acquisitions. This sale marks another significant move in the world of private equity and consumer health products. Finally, Synagistics, a Singapore-based digital commerce service provider, is set to merge with SPAC HK Acquisition Corp and list on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Backed by big names like Alibaba Group, Synagistics provides data-driven digital commerce solutions to over 600 brand partners. This merger is expected to bring new opportunities and growth for the company. Please stay tuned for more details on these stories and other exciting news. Reuters breaking views: the $63 billion online retailer Shein is considering a debut in Hong Kong if its London listing plan fails, as reported by the Financial Times. This move would be a significant shift, highlighting the company's struggle to balance its Western market aspirations with its Chinese origins. A Hong Kong IPO could drastically reduce Shein's valuation due to lower demand and the absence of comparable peers in the region. U.S. funds, wary of potential investment restrictions by Washington, are avoiding Hong Kong stocks, further complicating Shein's situation. Additionally, being listed in Hong Kong might leave Shein as an orphan stock with insufficient equity research coverage, as local analysts may not grasp the competitive dynamics of the U.S. fast fashion market, where Shein competes heavily against giants like Amazon. This perception of Shein as a Chinese company under Western scrutiny could be reinforced, despite its efforts to distance itself from its Chinese roots by moving its headquarters to Singapore. The overall market discount in Hong Kong, where the Hang Seng Index trades at significantly lower multiples compared to London's FTSE 100 and New York's S&P 500, adds to the risk, explaining why the city's bourse hasn't seen a major IPO in years. Yahoo US, private equity firm Blackstone is on the brink of selling Japanese supplement maker Alinamin Pharmaceutical to North Asian buyout fund MBK Partners for $2.17 billion, according to an insider. The deal, expected to be finalized soon, marks a significant move for Blackstone, which acquired Alinamin from Takeda Pharmaceutical in August 2020. The sale, first reported by Nikkei, aims to leverage MBK's expertise in consumer goods to enhance Alinamin's value. Known previously as Takeda Consumer Healthcare Co., Alinamin specializes in over-the-counter medicines in Japan. Under Blackstone's ownership, Alinamin expanded its operations by establishing a unit in Taiwan and increasing its international sales. This strategic sale underscores Blackstone's ongoing efforts to optimize its portfolio and capitalize on growth opportunities in the consumer healthcare sector. South China Morning Post: Synagistics, a digital commerce service provider based in Southeast Asia, is poised for a Hong Kong listing through a merger with HK Acquisition Corp, a SPAC backed by former Hong Kong Monetary Authority head Norman Chan Taklam. The merger values Synagistics at $3.5 billion Hong Kong dollars, $448 million US, and includes a private investment in public equity, PIPE, involving 9 investors, such as Oakwise Capital Management and a subsidiary of Hong Kong Telecommunications. Synagistics has grown significantly since its founding in 2014, offering integrated digital commerce solutions to over 600 brand partners and leveraging platforms like Lazada, Shopee, and TikTok. The company, supported by Alibaba Group and Gobi Partners, reported a gross profit of 31.7 million Singapore dollars, $23.4 million US, in 2023, reflecting a 3.6% increase from the previous year. Its revenue surged by 12.4% to 126.6 million Singapore dollars, making it the second-largest digital commerce solutions platform in Southeast Asia. Synagistics operations span major Southeast Asian economies and have recently extended to markets like Hong Kong and Spain. The SPAC merger aligns with Hong Kong's 2021 regulatory changes to accommodate such deals, despite the waning popularity of SPACs in the US. Foreign policy. Days before casting his ballot in Britain's general election, Ivan, a Hong Konger in his 40s who recently resettled in the United Kingdom, reflected on the last time he voted back home. 4 years ago, he joined more than 500,000 Hong Kongers voting in an unofficial primary held by pro-democratic parties ahead of the city's legislative council elections. The backlash was swift as Beijing arrested dozens who participated and charged them with conspiracy to commit subversion under a new national security law imposed in 2020. Ivan, who immigrated under the UK's British National Overseas (B&O) visa scheme, now feels a renewed sense of responsibility to exercise his political rights in Britain. This sentiment is shared by many Hong Kongers, such as Richard Wong, a 25-year-old who joined the Labour Party and has been canvassing as a volunteer. On July 4, Ivan and Richard will be among the estimated 140,000 Hong Kong migrants voting for the first time in the UK, potentially influencing crucial seats. The rhetoric among British political parties has increasingly focused on support for Hong Kongers, with concerns over Chinese interference in the UK escalating. However, this support is somewhat at odds with the country's increasingly hostile stance on immigration, with critics warning that the narrative framing Hong Kongers as model minorities is based precariously on toxic narratives and problematic imperial nostalgia. South China Morning Post. Hong Kong police have stopped and searched several people, including a dentist earlier arrested for alleged sedition, after they briefly stood in silence on a busy street near the spot where an officer was stabbed in 2021 by a lone wolf assailant. Dentist Li Yingqi appeared outside the Sogo department store in Causeway Bay with 3 friends, some dressed in black, at around 10 p.m. on Monday, the 27th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to Chinese rule. Li denied that she and her friends had been mourning the attacker when police officers stopped and searched some of them at a nearby bus stop about 15 minutes later. Separately, another woman in the same group was stopped and searched by at least 5 plainclothes officers in the Causeway Bay MTR station. In the 2021 attack, the police officer suffered a 10 centimeters deep wound to his back and a punctured lung, and the attacker later died after turning the weapon on himself. Li, a member of the League of Social Democrats Party, was arrested in late May on suspicion of sedition under the Safeguarding National Security Ordinance. She and others allegedly published seditious materials linked to the 1989 Tiananmen Square crackdown with the aim of inciting hatred of the local and central governments. Telegraph. Family holidays as a child were often to far-flung spots, thanks to my dad's job as cabin crew for British Airways. We were lucky enough to stay in a fancy hotel near Sydney Harbour, explore the high-rise Mecca of Hong Kong, and play on the beach in Barbados. But it was a little upside-down cottage in Tuckenhay, Devon, that we stayed in as a family in the early 1980s, which has long been imprinted in my memory. Since losing my beloved dad in November 2022, its significance has grown all the more great. Our first visit was in the February half-term of 1983, and the excitement of the car revving up the steep driveway and pulling up outside the small cottage door remains vivid. During the last 18 months of Dad's life, he succumbed to dementia and moved into care near our family home in Somerset. It was hard seeing him turn into a shadow of himself, and painfully hard when he passed away. I began to feel an increasing need to be somewhere that allowed me a glimpse of the old dad. Now with my own family, I returned to the upside-down cottage. As we wound our way towards Tuckenhay, it all felt comfortingly familiar. The cottage was as homely as ever, and we spent the holiday exploring the area and making new memories. I felt warm knowing I'd shared this space with my dad and encouraged by creating new traditions with my little gang, feeling that somehow, my dad is there with us too. South China Morning Post reports that Hong Kong's new bill to automatically renew over 300,000 land leases expiring in 2047 will significantly boost investor confidence and streamline cumbersome renewal procedures. The extension of government leases bill will extend commercial, residential, and industrial land leases for another 50 years upon their expiry on June 30, 2047, marking 50 years since Hong Kong's handover to China. Lawmaker Jeffrey Lam Kin Fung emphasized that the new regulation would benefit banks in the mortgage business and attract more family offices to the Greater Bay Area market. Stuart Leung Chi-kin, chairman of the Real Estate Developers Association of Hong Kong, noted that this measure would eliminate uncertainty for property owners. The bill stipulates that renewed leases will not require a land premium but will be subject to an annual rent equivalent to 3% of the land's rateable value. Secretary for Development Bernadette Lin Han Ho highlighted that the first batch of leases to be renewed will expire in 2031, with Gazette notices of renewal appearing at the end of this year. According to the South China Morning Post, Beijing's decision to gift Hong Kong another pair of giant pandas for the 27th anniversary of its return to Chinese sovereignty aims to bolster the local tourism industry. Chief Executive John Lee Ka-chiu expressed deep gratitude, noting that this gift symbolizes the central government's care and support. Tourism Minister Kevin Yeung Yunhung mentioned that intensive preparations are underway for the pandas' arrival, hoping they will spur tourism. This move follows previous occasions in 1999 and 2007 when Beijing sent pandas to Hong Kong, marking significant anniversaries. Ocean Park, which has hosted pandas since 1999, reported that these animals have brought joy to over 55 million visitors, contributing significantly to merchandise sales. The practice of panda diplomacy, dating back to the Tang dynasty, involves China gifting or loaning pandas to symbolize friendship. The new pair's arrival details are expected to be shared soon, and Ocean Park plans to involve the public in naming them, continuing a tradition of engaging the community in these cultural exchanges. The Guardian delves into how the Conservative Party's tough stance on immigration has backfired, particularly under Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Despite his bold promise to stop the boats, the number of small boat arrivals by June 2023 reached 12,901, surpassing figures from the previous 4 years. Sunak's commitment to this pledge, seen as unachievable by many, has led to public dissatisfaction, with 69% of people expressing disapproval of the government's handling of immigration. The Conservative Party's history since 2010 shows a pattern of ambitious targets and harsh policies failing to reduce both legal and illegal immigration. Notably, net migration soared to 745,000 in 2022, driven by legal migration to meet economic needs. The narrative has shifted towards demonizing migrants, with policies like the Rwanda Plan and the hostile environment measures leading to scandals such as Windrush. As the election approaches, Sunak's inability to deliver on his immigration promises highlights the broader failure of the Conservative Party's immigration strategy, characterized by a disconnect between rhetoric and reality. South China Morning Post, Beijing's municipal government has unveiled a groundbreaking regulation to support and govern the advancement of autonomous driving technology, marking the most significant regulatory development in 5 years. The draft regulation, released by the Beijing Municipal Bureau of Economy and Information Technology, emphasizes the need for technological breakthroughs in core areas such as sensors, semiconductors, operating systems, and algorithms. It also proposes a citywide safety monitoring platform for driverless cars, supporting the systematic access, authorized use, and circulation of data collected by these vehicles. This regulation aims to create a regulated sandbox environment for companies to test new technologies and products. Beijing, traditionally cautious due to its political significance, is now joining other Chinese cities in embracing autonomous vehicles. Currently, companies like Baidu, Pony.ai, WeRide, and Autox are allowed to operate automated shuttle services with a safety driver on board. The regulation also covers mapping services, which are strictly regulated in China. The city has opened over 1,160 kilometers of public roads for trials, with significant investments in the sector from other cities like Shenzhen and Wuhan. Beijing's plans also include a cloud-based command system to connect vehicle data with road and transport conditions, providing comprehensive sensing, decision-making, and remote management services for driverless cars. South China Morning Post: Hong Kongers celebrated the 27th anniversary of the city's handover to Chinese sovereignty with a variety of catering discounts and free museum passes, though some residents lamented the lack of political diversity in recent years. The Post observed dozens of citizens enjoying discount breakfasts at Tai Hing and hundreds watching a fishing boat parade from Sim Sha Sui Promenade. Thousands took advantage of free entry to the M+ Museum and the Hong Kong Palace Museum. Despite the festive atmosphere, some residents expressed a desire for more frequent or practical cash incentives to boost local spending. Deputy Chief Secretary Warner Chukwinghing and other officials visited the Borington Cooked Food Center to encourage the public to capitalize on the holiday deals. Over 20,000 patrons visited M+ and 5,600 stopped by the Palace Museum, though some elderly residents were unaware of the need to register online for free entry. The celebrations also included free tram rides and a fishing boat parade along Victoria Harbour. Pro-Beijing groups marked the occasion with a carnival at Victoria Park, though it saw few visitors initially. The park was once the starting point for the annual July 1 march by the now-dismantled opposition bloc, banned since 2020 due to COVID-19 restrictions and the national security law. South China Morning Post: the recent increase in the duty-free threshold for mainland Chinese tourists visiting Hong Kong drew a lukewarm response, with industry leaders expressing doubts about its effectiveness. Anitse Yaoanyi, chairwoman of the Hong Kong Retail Management Association, warned that the measure might not significantly boost the ailing retail industry, which is struggling with rising rent and salary costs. The central government raised the duty-free limit from 5,000 yuan to 12,000 yuan per trip, with a potential increase to 15,000 yuan for purchases at border duty-free stores. However, many mainland visitors found the new threshold less attractive compared to Hainan's annual limit of 100,000 yuan. Tourists like Tong Miao Miao from Guangzhou and others at K11 Musea Shopping Center noted that shopping in Hong Kong was not cheaper than in other destinations like Japan. Most visitors were unaware of the new limit and did not plan to shop extensively. Some, like Lin Zhihui from Foshan, found their experience in Hong Kong lacking in convenience and service quality. Chief Executive John Lee Ka-chiu emphasized the central government's support for Hong Kong's economic development, expecting the new measure to attract more tourists and diversify tourism offerings. However, the initial response suggests that more comprehensive efforts may be needed to revive the city's retail sector. South China Morning Post reports that Hong Kong's property market has experienced a significant decline in sales, with transactions in June dropping by over a third compared to May. The total number of property sales, including homes, car parks, shops, industrial units, and offices, fell to 4,939 from 7,361 in the previous month. The value of these transactions also decreased by 39% to 38.14 billion Hong Kong dollars. This decline follows an initial surge in sales after the government lifted property restrictions in February, which saw sales peak in April. However, high interest rates and a sluggish economic recovery have dampened market enthusiasm, with predictions indicating a further 20% drop in transactions in the second half of the year. In another article from the South China Morning Post, Chinese stocks have rebounded from a 4-month low, buoyed by better-than-expected factory activity data for June. The CSI 300 index rose by 0.5%, driven by the Shein S&P Global Manufacturing PMI, which climbed to 51.8, surpassing forecasts and marking the fastest growth since May 2021. This positive data helped alleviate concerns from the official PMI, which remained at 49.5. Property developers saw gains, with Poly Developments and China Vanke leading the charge. However, the People's Bank of China has signaled potential market interventions to cool off the bond rally, indicating a complex economic landscape. Despite the gains, some major companies like Kuaichao Matai and contemporary Amperex Technology Limited experienced declines. In a film review by the South China Morning Post, the Korean remake of Soi Chang's 2009 thriller Accident, titled The Plot, fails to capture the original's simplicity and intensity. The remake, directed by Lee Yo-sup, stars Gang Dong-won as Young Il, a troubled architect of death. The film complicates its premise with ostentatious accidents, numerous flashbacks, and a plethora of peripheral characters, all set to a pounding score. Unlike the original, which thrived on its stripped-down execution and palpable paranoia, the plot becomes mired in chaos and gloss. While it attempts to comment on public distrust of traditional institutions, any substantive message is lost amidst the film's convoluted narrative and showy execution. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.